Turn that off. It's time for No Pad Sports Talk. Stay tuned as two brothers bring you the latest from your Michigan teams and beyond in hockey, baseball, football, and more. Let's get started. Here are your hosts, JD and Steve.
Welcome to another edition of No Pad Sports Talk. I am one of your hosts, JD.
And I'm Steve, and we are coming to you back-to-back days.
Yeah, back-to-back.
You know, 2 weeks off, back-to-back days. So
and I am so super excited about today, though. Look, I love talking football, especially draft and stuff like that, but to me, nothing beats talking baseball. And I'm really loving today.
Yeah. So today is a baseball day. But it is spring training. There's a lot happening. So there is some
especially
stuff.
Spring breakout, though. Right?
Yes.
This is the first year for spring breakout. And I am loving watching this. This is been a lot of fun for me because I love prospecting, not just prospecting as far as like the players go, but of course, people listen to the show know I'm an avid baseball card collector. Yep. So being able to actually watch some of these prospects has been just so much fun for me.
Yeah. Speaking of baseball card collection, last night after our show, you broke open a box.
I did.
And got a special card.
Look, I don't
a unique
hit
one of so many.
Yeah. Yes. I don't. For the record, I don't think that anybody should open packs expecting to hit big because it's just like gambling. But you know, I did hit a card, and it was a gold autograph of 50, so that was fun.
Yeah.
And you know, like it wasn't like a huge player necessarily, but
he was a rookie. It was his rookie card.
It was his rookie card, and and it's probably like the only player that you could really expect, or I don't know. Anyway,
well, considering it's the Oakland Athletics,
yeah,
there's slim pickings out there. I would assume. I mean, they had the worst record in the Major League Baseball last year.
They had to have. I'm pretty sure they did.
It was the worst.
Yeah.
I definitely think they had the worst attendance of any team in MLB. So much so that we talked about it and related it to the movie Major League, where the new owner was trying to get the team to lose so bad that they could move the team and break their lease.
But I ended up getting the player was Zach Geloff, right? So a gold autograph, Zach Geloff of 50. So last year he kind of had a little stint in the major leagues, and he ended up with a 137 ops plus, which was nice, and a 2.6 WAR in the limited amount of games he had. So overall, pretty nice. And he's probably the main player. If there's any fans of the A's left, that's probably one of the few players they actually want to see.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
So,
but anyway,
so
I thought that was there. But
it was pretty cool because just it wasn't probably 5 minutes before you're like, man, I hate going through these boxes. You never get anything, and da 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 da, and all of a sudden you're like, oh. So,
yep. Yeah, I mean, it was nice because again, the last big player I hit was back like in 2020 or something like that. I ended up getting a Wander Franco auto, and we all know how that turned out. So hopefully,
okay. Well,
yeah.
That little tidbit he didn't give me last night, and I did not. Now that's actually poetic justice right there.
Yes. But I mean, the spring breakout games allow me to kind of see some of these prospects and like live on TV, and It's been a lot of fun. And Jace Young, 2 home runs, 1 game. It was awesome. Anyway, I just wanted to throw it out there because look, this is a new event for baseball. They haven't done this before. they've had, your futures game, which is like the best prospects of the American League teams versus best prospects of the National League teams. So you don't really get to see all the prospects, but this is the first time ever where each team got to put their best prospects on display going against another team's best prospects. It's been great. And I'm so glad they implemented this. It's been a lot of fun for me to watch.
Well, and I think it's a great opportunity for fans of baseball to see the up and coming.
And it's a great opportunity for the players themselves. But
it is, right?
Yeah.
To show what they can do. So that's kind of our introduction. We know we're going to be talking baseball today. But I have 5 questions for my brother.
Oh, 5 questions. So wait, you said 5?
5.
It's time for Top 5 Questions on No Pads Sports Talk.
That's right.
Okay. All right.
There we go. So these are all baseball related, specifically Tigers related.
Tigers related. All right.
Okay. Now I did cheat a little bit, and I got these questions. I went up, Local 4, clicked on Detroit, had them. They had like 17 questions. I went through and I picked the ones that I'd like to know about as we're moving forward to this year's team. And I have one
record, I don't know what they are. Just
he does not know they are.
I don't know.
And I have one bonus question because I just got to have it.
Okay.
All right. So let's start with this. We've all heard, if you've been following baseball at all, Colt Keith, the Tigers signed him to a contract. When I heard that, first thing I thought about was if they're going to sign him to that kind of contract, I assume he's going to make opening day roster. So my question to you, brother, is Colt Keith ready? And kind of the part B of that is, where do you see him fitting in on defense?
Okay. Quick answer is yes, he's ready. All right. You can't he was very impressive in 2023 throughout the minor leagues. I mean, he hit 306, 27 home runs across AA and AAA.
Yep.
His ops was 932. The guy clearly shows that he's ready offensively, and he was only 21 years old too. So it's not like he was, I don't know, like a 27, 28-year-old that
Correct.
playing these leagues. Like, he was still pretty young overall. So he's ready. And sometimes it's, is he going to struggle? I do believe he's going to struggle some, especially in the beginning part of the season. Okay. But that's just kind of comes with the territory and the growth. So I see him.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Okay. For the second part of the question, you're saying, like, where does he fit in? And they're going to have him playing second base, which is actually pretty good for him because, let me rephrase that. It's probably good. It's really good for the team. The second base position has long been a major hole for the Tigers, especially offensively. So be able to insert the kind of bat and offensive potential that he can provide in a big hole like second base is going to be a big boost offensively. Defensively, he doesn't quite have like a huge range, but his arm will play at second base, and I don't think that he's going to make a lot of errors at second. So I do think second base is a good position for him. So, and as far as like where does he fit in the lineup, probably 5 or 6 to begin.
Okay. All right. So, but yeah, so like some of the numbers that I looked up, I saw that he hit 303 in AAA last year, right? And he had 306 through AA, AAA. But I was looking at the AAA because that's the next step, right? From that point, you're going to the majors, right? So, I saw that he was hitting 303. He had a good ops. I want to say it was like, I thought I saw 8 something, but it doesn't matter. Either way. Yeah. So either way, like I know he appeared to be ready when it came to that. right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And what's nice though too, just to kind of close that loop. And you talk about like we also talk about home runs power wise. So he also hit 13 home runs in AAA compared to 14 in AA. So it's not as if his power fell off at all.
Yep.
But one of the stats I really like looking at is walks versus strikeouts, because again, it's about getting on base. Even though his on base percentage as a whole dropped, like say 20 some odd points, from like 391 to like 370 ish.
Yeah.
What was really interesting to me was his strikeout to walk ratio. Okay, because he walked 35 times compared to only 25 times in AA. So his walks went up 10 walks. Now he did play like say 8 games more between at AAA and AA, but his walks did go up by 10, and his strikeouts did decrease as well. Right? He struck out 63 times in 59 games and only struck out 58 times in 67 games. So his walks went up, strikeouts went down, and that to me, I think, is a good indicator that he's ready.
Okay. Well, and those are the kind of things that the Tigers, this Tigers organization has been looking for.
Correct.
Players who get on base, right?
Yeah.
So whether it's walk, hit, and don't strike out a lot. That's what they're trying to.
Correct.
That's what they're trying to grow.
Control the strike zone. You know, if the ball's if the ball is in the strike zone, they want a person that can put a bat on it.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So question number 2. Let's talk about Casey Mize. All right, and what his role is going to look like. You know, he's had some injuries over the last 2 years, right?
Oh yeah.
And part 2 of that is, where does Wentz fit into that as far as the rotation?
All right. 2 big questions, actually.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And I kind of went 2A and 2B because of specifically what I read in the from when I was reading through these questions, and that's why I tied them together.
Now, by Wentz, you mean Joey Wentz, right?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, not Carson.
All right, so... well, I just want to make sure I didn't mean like Wentzio. That's what I wanted to
No. Wentz was the last. Yeah.
All right, so Casey Mize. All right, so they're going to bring him back a little bit slowly to start him off with, right? Because of the major injury concern. He got injured at the end of 2022, so he didn't pitch the rest of 2022 and none of 2023. But he was looking pretty good, a couple years ago when he was actually pitching. Mm-hmm. Like as far as like developing wise, right? Like he started to kind of come into a groove at the end of 2022. That was a major injury, and so far for this spring training period, he's only thrown like 6 innings. So it's really hard to really take anything out of those 6 innings, facing like 30 some odd batters,
right?
Which is kind of par for the course for most of the starters around the league, and especially on the Tigers. So that's not like anything to be concerned about. That's kind of where everybody's at. But I kind of hit on it a little bit previously. We're talking about the Tigers. I think they may go a 6-man rotation because between Mize, Manning, Flaherty, and even Skubal, they've all had injury concerns. So I think they're going to want to try to limit the number of innings each of them are throwing, not just in spring training, but overall for the year. And because of you got quality starters like Mize, Manning, Flaherty, Maeda, Olsen, Skubal, and you can even look at like Bo Brisk, even possibly being a starter, like if you need him to. Like they have a lot of really quality starters, like in the organization. So having a 6-man rotation, I don't think is out of the question, and I believe that's where they're going to go to try to limit the number of innings. So Mize will probably be down towards the bottom of the rotation, just because. Again, injury concerns, hasn't thrown for a while.
Right.
And honestly, he hasn't looked great in the limited time he's had. Because you're looking at, like, again, I like to look at the strikeout to walk ratio, and it's like almost a 1-to-1 right now, which again is not very good. So they're going to give him every opportunity in order to come back, and I think once he gets back in the groove again, I think Mize has a lot of talent, and I think he'll be good, but not right away. It's kind of like he's kind of like a rookie coming back into the league again. It's been so long that he's going to have to kind of get back into that pattern again.
And he's still young. I think he's 26 or 27.
He's 27.
27 coming into this year. So yes, he did miss a good, obviously all of last year we didn't play, and then a lot of the 2022 season. So, but it's not as if he's over 30 yet, right?
No, not yet.
So
and
I think he
pitchers
still has
can
the
pitch
ability
into their late 30s now too. So
right. So, so that's where you see him. What about Wentz, Joey Wentz?
So Wentz is one of those guys that can be a strong reliever, being a left-hander as well as come in and do some spot starting for you again if needed. Because right now the only left-handed starter we have is Skubal. So like if there's a matchup that they like as far as need a left-handed starter and you can't go with Skubal, they might just throw Wentz in there as if he's available. But Wentz has looked pretty good in the limited amount of time he's had this current spring training, and even in the last year, he threw some quality innings for us. So I think Wentz is going to be more of a long relief to start off with, long relief spot starter, and potentially. Depending on how our setup and closer works out, you might even see him in those roles. Like Wentz is the type of guy where you can kind of put him in. Like he can do a little bit of everything, and So I like him a lot. So
okay,
does that answer the question? Is that
what you're looking? So well, it is. So basically, what I was looking at before, or when I got the question. It said, Wentz pitched 105.2 innings last year, which was second most on the Tigers.
Mm-hmm.
And they talked about basically we call it handcuffing because, like in football, when they do that with running backs, specifically in fantasy football, you got to have two because they have a running back by committee, right? But partnering Wentz with Mize, so they're like maybe, splitting 7 innings, right? You talked about long relief, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that kind of fit in with what they were saying, but they're both left-handed pitchers, right? So it's
Mize is not.
I thought it said it was both a left-handed pitcher. Hold on, let me look. No, I made that part up, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, my bad. But that was how they, with Mize coming off an injury and trying to wanted to limit him, but getting back into the rotation and, maybe putting the two together, to getting your seven innings out of a guy and bringing your closers at the end.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's quite possible. And I just think they're just going to Mize has been doing simulated games. So he's been doing, like throwing a high number of pitches, throughout his own like warm-ups routine and stuff like that. So but they're gonna definitely limit him, and again, it may not necessarily partner him with I don't think they're gonna necessarily tie those two together. So I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think you're gonna see Joey Wentz every time Casey Mize is in there, but
sure.
But they're definitely going to, make sure he's feeling okay throughout the game. Every time he comes off the field, hey, how's the arm? How's the shoulder? How's the elbow? Right. And just make sure that, because again, they got a lot invested in Casey Mize, high first round draft pick. He might have been even.
I think he was the number 1 overall pick.
First overall. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're not going to do anything that could potentially damage him any further. So,
yeah.
Yeah. Whether it's going to be Wentz or someone else. Yeah.
Okay. So sticking with the pitching.
Okay.
My next question goes and falls with who. You kind of already hit on it, but who will be in the starting rotation? Who do you see is going to come out of the bullpen? So specifically, I have 3 names I wanted to kind of mention: Gibson, Long, Lang, and Matt Manning.
Matt Manning's going to be a starter. So your ace is going to be Skubal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
he'll probably be the opening day starter.
100%, yes. Now your number 2 is can vary because Flaherty could potentially be your number 2. Flaherty has been a good pitcher in the past, so
yep.
I think it came out in 2018, and it was very impressive. But again, he's had some injuries.
Yep.
It kind of derailed his career a little bit. But Flaherty could be your number 2. Olsen could be your number 2. If he's looking, if they like what they see out of Olsen, right? He could be your number 2. But I actually like Manning's stuff more than Flaherty or Olsen even. Maeda might be your number 3 or number 4. He's kind of like a like he's very solid, very consistent. You're going to get what you get out of Maeda. So that's why he's going to be like more of a 3 or 4. But I've always been a big fan of Manning, and so I like him to be a like number 2, number 3. Again, it's so hard to really kind of gauge where they're at right now because you can't, like, I don't get to watch their practices or anything. Just kind of what we've seen as far as the limited spring training,
right?
Which again, when like most of them's only thrown like 8 innings, 9 innings, so it's it's really hard to gauge.
Right.
But again, the stats that I kind of like to look at is walks versus strikeouts. Right now, Matt Manning has about 12.5 strikeouts per 9 compared to 3.5 walks, which is a little more than Olsen. I mean, about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 versus 3.5 walks per 9. So the same number of walks per 9, but the strikeouts per 9 is a lot more with Manning. So that's kind of what I'm saying as far as I'd probably go with Manning right now. But that doesn't say, again, and you have to look at the quality opponents that they're throwing against. And Manning is actually less than both Flaherty and Reese Olsen. They have more of a higher quality opponent that they pitch to. So, and only throwing 9 innings, it can really skew the numbers. So is Manning really that much better, strikeout wise per 9 than Reese Olsen? It's hard to say. That's what I mean. It's tough to say. But I think personally, even though I like Manning, I think the Tigers like Olsen, if that makes sense.
Okay. And I kind of tied a bunch of questions together.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
You mentioned relieving.
I did like in the bullpen. So this talked about Sawyer Gibson Long. He didn't have a lot. He threw 20 innings last year, right? And they said it was pretty good. He was overpowering hitters, but whether or not he was actually going to make the roster or end up back at AAA.
I think he's going to start in AAA. That's not to say that I think he's going to be on the roster sometime this year, but I don't think he's going to be out of spring training. I'm almost 100% certain he won't make it out of spring training. But I do think that the bullpen would be pretty solid. Because like Alex Faedo, I know you mentioned him, Bo Brisk. When Bo Brisk was first brought up last year, they were trying to use him more of a starter, and he can do that. But I also mentioned this was back last year when they were trying to figure out where to put Bo Brisk, and when he was doing relief duties, about how his velocity went up, the amount of break that he had in his breaking balls would go up. Bo Brisk just seems to be a much better reliever than what he is as a starter. Not that he can't do it, but And then you got some young guys, Wilmer Flores, Kiner Montero. They'll be coming in. They'll be providing some assistance in the bullpen. I think they're pretty good. Will Vest, he had some pretty good stuff last year, and he started to actually improve the longer he was on the roster, because he did get moved up and down a little bit, but he actually kind of settled in. Alex Lang is going to be our closer. He hasn't really done so good so far this spring training, but he's solid, and he's got some nasty stuff. I think relieving wise, it's going to be good. But that's why I don't think Sawyer Gipson Long is going to be with the team, because you kind of got your starter set and you kind of have your reliever set and your closer set. Right now, you just don't fit in.
Okay. All right. So, again, this is purely out of just chance, but we started talking about, the AAA stuff, right? We're going back down to the minors. So I want to talk about minor league prospects. And then who do you think is going to get the call? We already know some of these guys have already been, not necessarily, I hate saying the word cut, but sent back down. Right? But they also showed how that, they were pretty good, up at least during spring training. Jace Young is one of them, right?
Yeah.
And then Malloy, is it John Hunter? Is that his name?
Justin Hunter.
Justin Hunter Malloy. Just whatever. I know he had 3 names, and I knew it was J and an H. But Malloy. So, and we've got some other guys down there. Obviously, we've talked about the minor league system and how the Tigers have done a much better job of developing those players, or bringing in the right people to help develop those players so that they'd be a little bit better. Because we didn't have a minor league system, you were saying, or it was really bad.
A couple of years ago, it looked really bad because the main thing was the players weren't developing. That was my biggest issue, right?
Okay.
But now that's kind of turned around. So some of these players that were drafted, we're starting to really see them improve. Yeah.
Okay. So, thinking about the opening day roster, we've already talked about Colt Keith. He's probably going to make the opening day roster.
Yeah.
Let's talk our prospects, and who do you think you could see, whether it's mid-season or after the All-Star break or late in the season, who might get the call to come up and, see what they can do?
So out of the gate, out of spring training, Colt Keith and Parker Meadows should both make the opening day roster.
Yep.
Parker Meadows being 24, I am a big Parker Meadows fan. I think even last spring training when he was in it, I said he was a dark horse to possibly make the team, just because of I did not like our outfield last year because I'm not a big Akil Baddoo fan, and anyway, I just didn't like it. I thought he was a dark horse to make it last year. But having an extra season in the minor leagues has really helped develop Parker Meadows, and he's 100% on the team. I don't think there's any way they can send him back down. So Parker Meadows, Colt Keith out the gate. Now, Justin Henry Malloy, I made mention that I don't think he's going to be on the team the entire year. I think that's going to be a trade piece for him. I just don't, again, going back to what I said previously, I just don't see a spot, an everyday spot for Justin Henry Malloy. And that's I don't like the player. I just don't see a spot for him.
Based on the other players that we already have.
And there's a lot of holes that we need to fill. And Justin Henry Malloy, I think, is a pretty good person to use as a trade piece. Kind of like center a trade piece around Justin Henry Malloy to go get someone that we may need in a different position, like shortstop, as an example.
Well, I was going to throw that out there, but if you hadn't mentioned shortstop, I wanted to make sure I threw shortstop out there.
So him for sure. All right. Jace Young will be on the roster at some point this year. I think Jace Young should be on the roster right out of spring training, but he's not. He's not going to make it out of spring training, and that's okay. what's been interesting though with Jace Young is they've been moving the guy between third base and second base. Jace Young, when he was originally drafted, he was drafted as a second baseman. But because of the hole at third, they've been trying to fit Jace Young in at third base. Now, his brother was a rookie last year with the Texas Rangers and had an awesome rookie season with the Rangers playing third base. Now, Young has the glove and he has the ability to make that throw from third base. So third base is not a bad fit. And again, it's a position of a need for the Tigers as well. So, if he can make that transition, and I think he can, then why not?
Yeah.
But that's a player that's going to be on the roster at some point during the season. So he'll be brought up.
Okay.
The catching wise, I believe that Dylan Dingler, man, he's getting my mind for a second. Dylan Dingler, I think he's going to get the call up at some point. Carson Kelly, he's kind of the backup to Jake Rogers right now. And even though Carson Kelly has had a really good spring training, and if he keeps it up, then what I'm saying is completely irrelevant. I just don't expect Carson Kelly to be able to keep up those offensive numbers. And I think eventually that Dylan Dingler is going to fill in for Carson Kelly as our backup catcher. Dylan Dingler, when you listen to the pitchers that he's worked with in the minor leagues, he's 25 right now. Like, he spent a lot of time in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
And he's caught a lot of these pitchers that's now on the major league roster, and every one of them talks about like how instrumental the guy is, not only for the development, but how good he is behind the plate, how they like the way he calls the game, how it's almost as if Dylan Dingler's in their mind, knowing what they want to throw at, in different situations. Mm-hmm. So he's got nothing but praise from, the pitchers that's come up, and the coaches love the guy too. And, and he's one of the things that's been holding him back has been his ability to hit the ball consistently, which he made strides last year, and we're seeing it again in spring training this year. Now, of course, he only has 19 plate appearances, but again, he's looked pretty decent at the plate this year, not completely lost. So he's a guy. Okay. And then lastly, pitching wise, this might be this is probably my most bold prediction I'm going to make, but I think Jackson Jobe should be on the roster at some point this year.
Okay.
He's only 21 years old,
right?
But the guy's stuff has just been really nasty. And I was wrong when they first drafted him. I did not like that draft pick for the Tigers, drafting Jackson Jobe. And it wasn't necessarily because, as far as like, I like consistency as far as, and that goes for any sport, baseball, football, whatever. I like to see a lot of consistency. And he only was a pitcher for 1 year in high school. And he was drafted straight out of high school after 1 year. And, I just thought that was pretty risky to be a first round draft pick, like 6 overall or whatever he was taken. But I've been wrong. He's been absolutely amazing. And he should get the call up at some point this year. My guess is it'll probably, unless barring injuries, right? Like he could get called up sooner than that if there's a lot of injuries. But if not, he'll get called up, I think, towards the end of the year.
Okay. All right, and there's one guy I want to talk about. I want to throw out there as far as the prospects, but Max Clark.
Yes.
Where do you see his end of season? Like, where do you think he's going to end up? I obviously, I don't think he's going to end up on the team, on the roster before the end of the season. But what is when you're looking at a guy who's just coming out of high school, who's only got this 1 year of experience now, right? Mm-hmm. At the major league level, where do you see his ceiling for this season? I guess
Double A.
And
that's great, honestly. So when most, as far as like with baseball goes, Double A is when you want the player to get the most seasoning. So most players, like prospect wise, you're going to see them in Double A for quite a while as they're trying to be seasoned, because that's where they're going to get that's where they're going to cut their teeth. You start getting like the competition just increases so much from like say a ball to Double A. Right. So he's going to end up in Double A. If he makes a jump to Triple A, that would be surprising to me. I'm not saying he can't, just saying I don't expect him to.
Gotcha.
And Double A might come maybe at the middle of the year. But I think he's going to start in High A, make the jump to Double A in the middle of the year.
Right. Isn't in High A, isn't that out in Kalamazoo? Is that where they're
Grand Rapids.
Grand Rapids. Okay, Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So that takes care of 4 questions. So here comes question number 5.
All right.
What version of Spencer Torkelson can we expect to see this year? Now, he showed, at the end of last year, what he could do, and it started to click. The word is, that what you've seen in the past when he went through the minors, he struggled, he adjusted, he smashed, right? Those were the words, right? So now we've seen the struggle, some change, he adapted, right? Because I know you like this guy. And the reason I know that you got a bunch of baseball cards on this guy, because you went big on this guy, right?
Not too big, but yes.
Yes. So, what's going to be, who do you think we get this year? Do we get second half Torkelson for a whole year? Or is it going to be a little bit of struggle and then, he has to warm up? I don't know.
So I know what I hope for.
Right? Oh yeah, we all hope. Yeah.
Now the spring has not been kind to Torkelson this year.
Right.
I mean, he only batting 125, no home runs, only 3 hits overall. So yeah, it hasn't been kind to him at all. But I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna say that he's going to be more of the second half Spencer Torkelson. But I say that with caution because last year Torkelson ended up with like 31 home runs, something like that.
Yep.
And so when I say like second half of the year, I'm not saying he's gonna like double those home run numbers in the second half of the year. Like I still think he's gonna end up with like between 30 to 35 home runs. Mm-hmm. But the consistency we saw from him at the end of last year, I think that's what we're gonna see.
Okay.
Less strikeouts, better command of the strike zone, that kind of thing.
Consistency is okay with me as long as it's positive. Right?
Right. Yes.
Right. I mean, if you're gonna go out there and you're striking out every time you come out, that's being consistent, but that's not what we're looking for.
And again, like his advanced numbers have always looked good, and I kept saying that over and over again. Like, you know, like
you
eventually,
do talk about, yep.
It comes like water finds its level, right? So like you can only get unlucky so many times before like the luck changes, and that's what I thought we kind of saw with Torkelson at the second half of last year was stuff just kind of leveling out, and I think that's what we're going to see more of is him playing more at bat, same like a natural level, not like peaks and valleys.
All right. Okay. So here's my bonus question.
All right.
And I have to have this out here because, well, we love to talk about this guy.
I think I know who it is, but okay.
So this is a Javi Baez question. It's related.
Yes.
All right. So AJ Hinch was asked a question about Baez's performance so far during spring training.
Mm-hmm.
And as a manager, he was trying to, I think he was trying to be nice about like what, because in 22 at bats, I think Baez has one hit, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I think that's right. Yeah.
I think that's what I read. So And basically, Hintz said that, look, as far as where he's at, he's going to be, at the bottom of the lineup when it comes to hitting. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was said, and people can look at it and say, okay, look, Hintz doesn't like it. Javi Baez came in actually better shape than he has, right? He says he's been working on his swing. He's been trying to make improvements, but he's still swinging at air.
Yes, he is.
Right? His hands, his head is out of it, like his hips, like nothing seems to be where it needs to be when you want to be a good hitter, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I want to talk about it from the management position, not so much about Baez, but it's around Baez, right? So how hard is it for a manager to be handcuffed to a liability like that, right? Because it wasn't his choice, right? He inherited a player, right?
Mm-hmm.
And do you think the Tigers organization would ever just cut bait, like cutting, and then eat the money? Because I know he's guaranteed the money anyway. Oof. So let's just start about, like, you're the manager of this team and you've got this player that you're paying.
Yeah.
Do you put him in the lineup, and how much of a liability is he defensively and offensively? Obviously, offensively, it's not great. He's like, that is up there, right? So as far as that liability and trying to help your team. But
so Baez is that guy. Like, if you ever played Little League, right? Baez is that guy that you always bat number 9 because he's going to be an out, right? Like that.
Yep,
that's Baez right now. That's it.
Yep.
He's striking out at a 50% clip. Not like 50% more than like his walks. Like 50% of his at bats, he's striking out. The guy is terrible. And I said for a long time, it, I've never liked Baez. I did not like when they signed him. I've been very vocal from the very beginning. I am not a Baez fan, never have been. Now, defensively, he's still pretty good. All right. Okay. Like, as far as like his outs above average and his fielding metrics and stuff like that, he's still pretty good defensively. Okay. But offensively, the guy, like I said, he's an automatic out. Might as well just chalk it up. He gets on base more from like errors and walks than like base hits. I'm making that up, but I'm just making a point. Like that's kind of what you have to expect. Like, you basically want to, again, that kid in Little League, don't swing at anything because you have a better chance of being walked than you do of just don't swing.
So if anybody's ever seen the movie Chicken Little, when Chicken Little goes up to bat and the manager's like, you got a teeny tiny strike zone, don't swing, he can't hit, right?
Yeah.
Right? And he goes up there and I see Chicken Little swing this giant bat, right? And he swing. If you put that swing up next to Baez, you're like, oh, that looks really similar, right? And in that movie, and obviously in the movie Chicken Little, he gets lucky and he does make a hit, right? But our dad used to say a broken clock was right twice a day.
Yeah.
So he's gonna make some contact for you, but most of the time he's like, don't swing.
And that's kind of so I'm kind of changing subjects a little bit, but I think, my feelings on Baez is clear, but the main issue is we don't really have another real good shortstop that we can depend on right now. Now, Edis Leonard, he was a guy that Tigers did get. He was a prospect for the Dodgers for a little while. And so the Tigers did get him, and he's in AAA. I didn't mention his name when you were saying as far as prospects that, could make an appearance in Major League Baseball this year. But I do think that Edis Leonard could be another one. Because going off of like everything we've already said, right? Like, Baez, I think, is, as a manager, being tied to someone like that because the contract is tough. You want to give the guy every opportunity to kind of turn things around, but
right.
It doesn't look like he's going to right now. And I said that last year. Like, I don't think Baez, like when they were talking about Baez and him, working in the offseason and trying to do this and turn things around, I said even then, I don't think Baez is going to be able to do it. I'm hoping he will. I just don't have any confidence in the guy at all. But the only shortstop right now that could replace him, I think, is Baez. They do have Ryan Kreidler. Kreidler is going to make the team out of spring training, I do believe, and he was with the team last year too.
Okay.
But I don't like him as a fielder all that much, and I don't really like the guy as a hitter either. He's the guy that has to sub in when he has to sub in. That's Kreidler. Right. But I do think that Edis Leonard might have a little bit of a higher ceiling if he can maximize his potential.
Okay. All right. So the final part of that question is, can you see that not mid-season? I don't know that they're going to get a trade partner to trading right before a trade deadline. No one wants to take Baez.
Oh, no. Baez is done.
Yeah. So do you think the Tigers will just look at it and maybe evaluate it at the end of the season and just cutting?
I hope that's what they do.
Right, because I think at that point he's only got 2 years left on his contract.
No, he's got 4.
He's got 4? Okay.
He signed for all the way through 2027.
Okay. I thought I saw, maybe it was just they only showed the 2 years. I thought he only had 2. But still.
Yeah.
And just, I get that they're going to, it's a bad contract. But can you see them just saying, you know what, we have... It's not going to get any better. He's only going to get older. He can't change his swing, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, do you just let him go?
I think they will, depending on the development of the other shortstops in that they have in their system right now. You know, like Peyton Graham. Like what's he going to look like?
Yeah.
I know Gage Workman. He's been with the team for a while. I think if he was, anywhere close to being ready or available, that that he'd already been brought up. I don't think he's going to be a guy like that. But but you do have like Christian Santana. He was like a signing, like from I think was it Dominican. Anyways, he's a guy that they signed to like an international deal many years ago. He's only 20 years old right now. And it really depends on, again, like his development as well. They might even move him to third base because that's where he's technically played this year a little, because he was a non-roster invite for spring training, and he's played 3 games, and all 3 have been at third base.
Okay.
But previously he's been a shortstop. So again, it's one of those things like if they find a replacement in house for Baez, I say they cut him. If they don't find a replacement for him in-house, he's going to be on the team because they're not going to sign another free agent, for a shortstop.
Right.
Okay. Now, if they can trade for someone that's young, that doesn't have a huge contract as a replacement for Baez, I could see that happening too, and then them cutting bait with Baez.
Right.
But that's the only way.
Okay. So for myself, I've not played a lot of baseball, right? But my question, this question kind of is, when you look at second base, third base, and shortstop, can a player make the transition between those positions? So if you got a second baseman, but maybe you've got a, don't have an everyday place for him at second base, can he play shortstop? Or if you have a third baseman that you can't get out there every day, can that third base slide into shortstop?
So the main thing with shortstop and why shortstop is pretty of a rough position is because the amount of range you need to be a good shortstop.
Okay.
If you don't have the range, you're going to suffer defensively by comparison to other shortstops.
Okay.
Like a third baseman generally has a pretty good glove, but not good range.
Yep.
Third baseman has a good arm. Like a shortstop needs a good arm, but again, he just doesn't have the range.
So when you say range, are you talking about movement from like side to side, lateral movement back around, like from where they're at, trying to catch a ball behind second base and trying to make it all the way over to third base? Right? Is that what you're talking about, or just
and the little bloop singles that's going into the shallow outfield? You know, where the left fielder can't get it. You know, its range is just trying to, like, how much field can you possibly cover?
Okay. I thought that's what you were talking about, but I wanted to make sure I was on the same page as, you know, terminology wise.
And that's why a lot of people can't make that transition. Now, like, are they able to field the position if balls hit to them? Yes, you know, they can go, you know, anywhere in the infield basically. But it's really the range, you know, and the ability to backhand a lot too, you know, with trying to go to third base, which a lot of, you know, like again, third baseman not necessarily have to do it a lot, whatever, stuff like that. So they have to have good range, have a good glove, and even have a good arm to get over to first base when you're deep in the hole.
Okay. All right. Well, and I just wanted to ask, because, you know, we have a bunch of these players. Well, I shouldn't say a bunch, but we have these players that we're trying to find locations for, you know, and trying to find a spot.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't ever see, like, where's the shortstop prospects, right? You know what I mean? Like, everything that you're talking about, like, where are these guys at? And, you know, why can't we have, you know, someone might be, you have to drop defensively a little bit, but has a better offensive output. Does it balance out where you can say, okay, I don't need Baez? That's what I'm kind of looking for, right?
Yeah, that's a lot of times that's not what you want at a shortstop position, because I think most teams will pick defense over offense. And I think that's why one of my favorite shortstops of all time, Ray Ordonez, I think that's why he had such a long career starting at shortstop, because the guy was terrible at the plate. But the guy was a wizard in, you know, defensively.
Okay. Well, no, and that's because that all makes sense to me. Like, you know, you would prefer to stop runs from happening. When you're looking at productivity, you know, there's those times where you're like, I've got two on the base, and I got a guy coming up that I know is going to strike out, and it's the last out. We're going to leave, you know, we're just leaving all these runs on the bag, right?
Right.
So you're hurting your team in that respect because you can't get home. You can't get the runners home.
Correct.
But it sounds like you're saying that defensively, stop, like, even if I leave, you know, 10 people on the bases, if we still score and win the game 3-2 because of a defensive play, that a win's a win, kind of thing.
You know, most managers, and maybe it's an old school way of thinking, but most managers say you want to be strong defensively up the middle. So that's catcher, short, second, and center.
Okay.
If you can be good defensively at those four positions, that gives your team a much better chance of winning the game, because those four positions have so much impact in the game. You know, as far as like how many balls get hit to them, how many times they touch the ball,
right?
How much again field they have to cover in those positions. So if you can get good defensive players in those four positions, that gives you a really good chance to win the game on the defensive side.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, those are my questions, and it's taken a while, but they were rather in-depth questions. Because that's why when I told you I wanted to talk about the questions first, you would have talked about all of this stuff, I think, throughout our podcast, and I would have asked you the questions, and you're like, "See, 20 minutes ago,
right?
See, 15 minutes ago."
Yeah. And I don't know, man. Like, I just, again, you know how much I love baseball, right?
Right.
I just love talking it, love watching it. And, you know, I do want to see more of Jackson Jobe. I just want to just say that again. Like, Jackson Jobe is a guy that I think has the ability to be an ace And I don't think, and this is going to be high praise, and man, please take it with a grain of salt, because again, it all depends on how he develops from here on out. But I think Jackson Jobe could be the best pitcher the Tigers have seen since Verlander.
Okay.
So I like him that much. So I'd just like to see what he can do against better competition.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. All right. Well, that is the top 5. But again, like I said, there were good questions because it really covered all. I said they're good questions. I'm patting myself on the back, but as I was reading through the questions to myself, I was thinking this is going to cover a lot of what we're going to say anyway during today's podcast.
Yeah. And I can't believe it's been an hour. Like, to me, it just like flew by because it's
exactly
baseball.
Well, that's what I was saying. I kept looking over and I'm like, oh yeah. But I'm like, we're half an hour in. I'm at question 3. We'll get through this. We'll be all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's these are things as somebody who is a fan of sports, as I'm looking at it, a team, these would be questions that I would have had. That's why I picked the ones that I did.
Makes sense. Yeah. I mean, and look, we still got to do our spring training picks, Major League Baseball picks in general, because we like to do our, like who we think is MVP, Cy Young, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And April 5th is opening day for the Tigers. I shouldn't say it's not opening day. It's their home opener.
Home opener, yeah.
Is April 5th.
So we have to probably do our baseball predictions next week.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we'll put that out there before anybody gets hurt on the first week of playing.
Right.
Plus, at that point, I mean, rosters will be set, right? Because I think March 30th, 28th is like opening day across the league.
Yeah, I think the majority of them will be set.
Yeah. I mean, I looked it up. I was looking at the games. I want to say it was between the 28th and 30th of March was that week is like opening week moving forward.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
So let us know what you think, though, in the comments, right? Like, what are your predictions? How wrong am I? Tell me if I'm wrong. I want to know.
Right. And I did. Like I said, there were things I knew I was going to ask. I had it, we obviously got to talk about Javi Baez. He's just not doing, the work that he put in over the winter has not shown up yet.
And I don't think it will. I don't expect it to.
Not at the plate. Like, he is in better shape, I guess. At least that's what I was reading as far as physically. Mm-hmm. But that's not translated to his plate appearances.
He's always had that wild, long swing. And he's always kind of been an all or nothing hitter. Either it's going to be, 30 home runs a year with like a, 250 average or whatever. He's out. Right. And I don't know. I've never liked that. Anyway, I've already said that. So,
yep. So, but yep, that is our Tigers update through my 5 questions. And that doesn't really cover everything, but it covered a lot.
Yes.
It covered a lot.
Anyway, appreciate you listening, though. You want to end this before we get to the hour mark, but thanks for that. And if you have questions for us, ask those down there, too. Baseball, football, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
And
we like to get stumped, too, because we'll look it up.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
But let us know, and we'll talk to you later.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for listening to No Pads Sports Talk. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. While you're at it, help spread the word by leaving a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on social media at No Pads Sports Talk.